In the last lecture, we added auto log out. Now I want to make sure that if I do log in here and then I reload the page, I still am logged in because the token here still would be valid. Now to do this, I first of all need to store the token somewhere else than in the Vuex store, because the Vuex store, of course, is JavaScript and therefore is lost just as all the other data in JavaScript files is on page reloads. We can use a browser API. We can use local storage. Local storage can be accessed from within the browser. It's not a Vue feature, which allows us to store key value pairs in a persistent browser storage. So on local storage, I can call setItem, and I can give it any key I want, like token. And there I can now store res data ID token. The same could be done for the user ID. More relevant than the ID, however, is the time when this token expires. Of course, the not so optimal solution is to set item expires in and store res data expires in. Why is this not so optimal? Well, because here this is of course is a value in seconds, 3000 seconds for example. Well, that's also going to be 3000 seconds whenever we retrieve it. So we should store the date when the token becomes invalid, not the amount of seconds. So let's calculate this date. For this, I'll add a new constant in my sign-up action here. I'll name it now. And I can use new date without arguments in the constructor to get the current date. Now I'll create a second constant, expiration date. And that is now plus res data expires in. However, dates are measured in milliseconds. So on the now date, I can call getTime, this method, a built-in JavaScript method, to convert this into milliseconds. So from the starting point of time, basically, to today in milliseconds. And I also need to convert this in milliseconds, which I can do by multiplying it with 1000. Now I got one big number here in milliseconds. I need to convert this back into a date, which I do with new date. And if I do pass an argument to it, in this case this big millisecond number, this gets converted to a date based on that argument. So now I can store the expiration date here in the local storage. And I can copy all the logic here and execute the same code in login. So there, where I also dispatch off user and so on, I can also store my token here. Now with that, let me save all of that and let's see if it works. I will log in here and then we can access application under the Chrome Developer Tools. And there we got this local storage item. If we expand this, we should see our URL, the local URL. If we click on this, we see the items we got in the local storage. You may ignore the log level, which is coming from our development setup, but the token is interesting. This is our ID token, and expires in is interesting. Let's see if this is correct. Yeah, if I check my watch, this is the correct expiration date. It's 1 hour from now. So with that, we're storing this data in local storage, a huge first step. Now, of course, we also need to extract it at some point of time to automatically log the user in. Now, this point of time probably is at application startup. So maybe in the app.vue file, our root component. Here, we could add a created method using this created lifecycle hook to automatically check if the user is logged in when this app starts. For this, I'll add a new action in my store and I'll name it, well, maybe place it below the normal login. I'll name it try auto login. You can of course choose any name you want. Now in try auto login, I want to, guess what? See if I have a valid token in local storage. So first of all, I'll extract the token. I'll get the token from local storage via the getItem method. There, I will retrieve the token. Now, if we have no token here, so if token is null or false, I will just return. There's no value in continuing because we got no token, we can't log in, no matter if the token would have been valid or not. That's the first check. The second check now is to see if we got a token, if it's still valid. So now I get the expiration date. I do this by accessing local storage, get item, and then access expires in. Well, I should also rename this to expiration date in both sign in and sign up. Makes more sense. So expiration date is the key name. I should now also extract this here and get my expiration date here stored in this constant. And now I need to check if that's still valid. So I'll again get now with new date. And I will actually now check if that is greater than my expiration date. I can check if now is smaller or equal, which then essentially also means it's not valid anymore because in 1 additional millisecond it would be invalid. So if it's smaller or equal than expiration date, then we know it's an invalid token. It expired. So then I will also return. If we make it through that check, however, we know that we do have a valid token because the expiration date is in the future. Therefore here we should check if now is greater or equal, of course. So greater or equal means now is after the expiration date, so it's invalid. If the expiration date is in the future though, so if the expiration date is greater than now, then we know we have a valid token. So then I want to log in. And for that, I will simply commit. I want to commit my auth user mutation. That requires user data, which contains the user ID too. So we'll also need to store that in local storage. So I'll quickly do that in the sign up method. I'll also store user ID in local storage by extracting local ID from the response data. And I will do the same in login. Also store the user ID here. With that, I need to extract the user ID in my try auto login action. User ID is extracted from local storage with get item user ID. And then I can commit this mutation from up here of user where I pass the token and the user ID. So there I will commit of user and pass on a JavaScript object which should have a token because I retrieve a token here and the user ID. So it should have a token which is equal to my token constant here, and which should have this user ID field, which is equal to my user ID constant here. So now we have some auto login functionality. Let's see if that works. We actually do have a valid token stored, but I will for now clear the storage here in the developer tools to get rid of it so that it's empty to try this from scratch because we didn't store the user ID earlier. So now let me log in. We got the data, and now let me reload the page. Obviously, we're not logged in because we got our try auto login action, but we're never executing it. So let's now go to the app.view file in created, which we already prepared. And there I want to execute this store dispatch and dispatch this new try auto login action. With that, we got valid data here stored in our local host. So let me simply reload this page, and you see we got the logout and dashboard button. So we got valid data. We got our successful auto login. Now, one problem we'll have though is if we log out, we don't clear our local storage. So that's the last thing I want to do here. In store.js in the logout action, I also want to reach out to local storage. And now we can call remove item for all these items or clear if we want to clear the entire storage. Now this would be okay here, but let's assume we have different items stored in the storage and we don't want to get rid of all of them. So I will call remove item and get rid of the expiration date, as well as get rid of the token and the user ID. So all the fields we store here. Let's get rid of all of them. Let's make sure expiration date is spelled correctly. Now if we go back to the application, if I click log out, you see the local storage is cleared here on the right. And with that, we got a working auto login functionality. And now if I reload, we're also not logged in because we got no valid login data. If I log in here, however, and I reload, we got data, it works. If I log out, it's gone. And the same works for signing up too. There, if I do sign up, we also store the data here, which also persists across refreshes. So that is auto logout and auto login here implemented.